All right, we're gonna get started by taking the small side of our grater and some Romano cheese, and we're just gonna grate that up really fine because we want it to go through the meatloaf, as well as we're gonna spread some of that on top. So just grate a little bit, that's good for now. All right, then we're taking a half a cup of cold water and we're going to crack an egg into the cold water and just whisk that in till it's nice and combined. Shouldn't take too long. All right, now we want to put this together. So I've got a pound of ground beef. I'm going to take that cup of cold water with the egg beaten in. And then you want to use seasoned breadcrumbs. These are the kind I like, the 4C. Those tend to be my favorite. Half a cup of those goes in. And then we're gonna do a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of basil, and then a full teaspoon of onion powder added in. And then you're going to take some of that grated Romano cheese from earlier. You need about a tablespoon of that. And like I said, just save the rest for later because we're going to use it. And then 2 tablespoons of parsley. Then I'm just going to go over that with some fresh ground salt and pepper. Need a little bit more pepper than salt here, so that's enough salt, a little bit more pepper. And then everything's in. All right, so then I have popped this right into my stand mixer. Turn that on. I'm going to put this little splash guard in because it keeps all of the mess down. And I'm going to turn it down to mix, and 2.5 minutes should be plenty. And it's going to get that all combined for me. Once your meatloaf mix is fully combined, I'm actually using my mini loaf pan. And I'm going to take a little bit of mixture and put it in each container. So while this is Italian meatball recipe, I'm actually going to turn it into some mini meat loaves because that makes it so much easier to eat once you put it all together and put it in the pan. Now what I will tell you is these do not need to be full. So what I might do is actually take a little bit out of each of these and make one more, because you don't want these to be too big since they're gonna bake up a little higher. You actually want these to stay pretty low. Like, you do not want these filled to the top. That one's still too big, so we're gonna put some more over here, even that out a little bit. This is a rare case where the smaller, the better off it's gonna come out. But you've got all those delicious seasonings in your meatball mix. And then you're gonna pop that in the oven at 350 for about 30 to 45 minutes. Since we're cooking these kind of thin, they don't take as long to bake up. While the meatloaves are cooking, I'm gonna pop these in the air fryer to toast them. All right, so I've got my all-purpose mat and the bread is toasted. So now here's the trick that you gotta use, is that you toast your bread, and then when you butter, you're actually going to turn this into garlic bread, which will really elevate a meatball sandwich more than you even realize. So once these are nice and buttered, sprinkle that with garlic powder to actually give you a garlic bread meatball. It's gonna really pump up the flavors. Okay, so now we've got all the pieces. We're just gonna put these together. So what you're gonna do is just take your favorite tomato sauce. I just bought a jar of sauce, but if you have a certain kind you like, feel free to go for that one. And you're just gonna cover that garlic bread with a not too thick layer because you don't want it to be too runny. You don't want it too thin either. And then we're going to take those mini loaves that we made. And the nice thing about making these into loaves instead of actual meatballs is that because they lay flat on the bread, when you bite into them, your meatball does not go flying out the other end. So once you've got that prepped, you're gonna go back and go over the meat itself with that Romano cheese that we shredded earlier. And then you're gonna take a couple slices of provolone. I like to just sort of cut them in half and kind of lay it on that way so that it covers as much as possible. And then you're gonna pop this back in the oven for about 5 to 7 minutes just to melt the cheese and then enjoy.